Okay. Good evening, everyone. For those people joining us for the first time, I'm Hendrina Quinnan, the councillor for our Handsworth ward and chair of this forum. Could I welcome all of you and thanks for joining us. I also thank all the officers who are here, especially that it's during school holidays. We will be hearing from you shortly. I'd like to advise that this meeting is being held in public and a recording will be available for future public record and will go on YouTube. If anybody doesn't want their picture on, should turn off their cameras. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss our Handsworth ward matters. Anyone wishing to raise an issue or ask a question should do so by raising their virtual hand or by using the chat box. I will invite you to speak. Those people wishing to speak should try to inform the debate currently in discussion. There are some slight changes to our agenda. After item 5, we will hear from our neighborhood police team. Officers, you will have 15 minutes to speak and respond to questions. So let's move on to the next item, COVID-19 update. Could I invite Bhavna to take us through this item? Bhavna.
Thank you, Councillor Quinnan. Thanks everyone for allowing me to come and speak to you today. In terms of the data, there is a lot of data, so I'll try and wrap it up in about 10 minutes if I can, so we've got 5 minutes for questions afterwards. So in terms of the data, what the data is telling us about COVID, so I'll tell you a bit about what's going on Birmingham-wise, how Handsworth looks as a ward based on the Birmingham data, and then we'll go on to look at the vaccination figures, and I'll very, very quickly go through any government guidance or anything which we know there is some elements of government guidance that we're being asked to follow. So if we start with the data first, so and apologies if I'm looking up because all of my data is on the screen above me. So the 7-day case rate for Birmingham is showing that we currently have, over the last 7 days, 410 cases per 100,000, which is a reduction from the week prior to that. Our 7-day rolling case count has decreased compared to the previous week by about 28%. So that's quite a large decrease. So it's gone from about 6,500 to just over 4,500. We are now the 64th highest in the UK in terms of case rates, which has actually gone down from previously as well. And so Birmingham being the 64th highest in terms of case rates. And in the week ending the 23rd of July, people with the largest number of cases were amongst the youngest age groups between the age of 20 to 39, representing 43.3% of cases, and 0 to 19 age group representing 29.5%. And also cases within the ethnic groups have also decreased. So we're generally seeing a decrease in cases overall. If we compare Handsworth, so Handsworth ranks 69th out of 69 wards, 69th meaning we are at the bottom, so Handsworth is at the bottom, so that's 28, so 69th meaning you guys within Handsworth have the lowest case rates. So in the last rolling 7 days, we had 28 reported cases. Following on from that, our case rate is 220 per 100,000. So if we compare that, that's near just over half of what the Birmingham rates are. And in terms of ranks within Birmingham. If you look in comparative sites, it's saying we're 67th out of 69th. So we were 67th out of 69th, and we're now 69 out of 69. So it goes to show that there are improvements. In terms of what the data is showing, so Handsworth has representation of the highest case rates being between the 20 to 39 age range of 38%, followed by 40 to 59s at 26, and just slightly behind that we've got 0 to 19 at 25%. In terms of ethnicity, 41% of cases in the last week period of 25th of June to the 24th of July is showing that 41% were Asian, 18% Black ethnic groups, and 8% of mixed other ethnic groups, and 8% of white ethnic groups. So that's what the data is telling us. I'll come on to vaccinations in a bit. So testing in terms of what is available. So obviously the recommendations are that people who are going out and about on a regular basis do an LFT test at least twice a week. It's recommended in general anyway, even if you're just going shopping. If you have symptoms, we all know what the common symptoms are. So we've got high temperature, new continuous cough, loss of taste, or change in taste and smell. It's recommended you isolate as soon as you get symptoms and book yourself a PCR test. Booking a test, you can go to the Gov.uk website or call 119. And I think at the moment there's two test centres within the Handsworth area, which is 60 Villa Street and Summerfield Community Sports Centre, which are the PCR testing sites. The advice is to continue to isolate until you get your positive or negative result, because you could be positive while you're waiting. So it's best to wait to know whether you're positive or not. And it's also advised that your household members also isolate with you for the period of time. So if you receive a negative test, you can carry on as normal. And if you test positive, you must isolate for 10 days, with day one being either the first day of symptoms or the date of the test, when you go and have your test done. So that's testing. So moving on to vaccination data. So I'm just going to go through the over 18s. We do have tables which breaks it down by age group. So if anybody's got any questions at the end in terms of any specific questions, please give me a shout. So in terms of vaccination data compared to Birmingham, so Birmingham have all those 18 years age and over. In terms of first dose, 44.7% have taken up the first dose. Handsworth is 32.4%. And so in terms of if we're looking at over 80s, which were being the other one, we're looking at in the over 80s group, 92.1% of Birmingham's over 80s population have had the first dose. In Handsworth, the representation is 73.1% of Handsworth's population. So all adults aged over the age of 18 are encouraged to have vaccination now. So it's opened up to all adults over the age of 18. And if you have been offered your vaccine already and you've changed your mind, then because you've got other priorities that are coming the way, so you've had to cancel your appointment, please contact your GP to book in your next appointment. And there are pop-up clinics coming up across the city as well, where you've got walk-in vaccinations as well. The second dose is now being offered after 8 weeks as a maximum, in some cases earlier. So it's not the full 11 weeks. And if you want to book your vaccination, there's a couple of websites. You can go to the NHS UK website, put your details in. It'll show you your vaccination centres, or you can go to the Birmingham and Solihull COVID vaccine website as well for your local sites within Birmingham, because they'll be able to tell you if there are any pop-up clinics as well. So as we all know, moving on to restrictions, we are in stage 4 now. So basically, a lot of the laws have subsided and we need to try and carry on as normal and live with the disease. But the recommendation is still wear masks if you're going somewhere. So please play with precaution and use precaution, especially the clinically extremely vulnerable key messages are most legal restrictions for individuals mixing in properties have been relaxed, but they are saying that still try to keep your distance. If you're indoors, keep your windows open so there's air circulating to try and reduce transmission. For businesses, obviously, to mitigate risks, we're leaving decisions to businesses, and we know that there are a number of businesses who are choosing to continue applying the rule to wear a mask when you're within the businesses. And for those who are clinically extremely vulnerable, obviously rules have been relaxed, but they're still being asked to be ultra careful and continue sort of like wearing masks and keeping their distance. So the other change that is going to come in on the 16th of August is if you've been double vaccinated, you don't need to isolate, but there is an exception to that rule. So if I had my second vaccine today, I have to wait 14 days before that rule can be relaxed. So it's 14 days after your second dose of vaccine, you don't need to isolate. So if I got my second vaccine today, tomorrow I became a close contact, I would still need to isolate until my 14 days after the vaccine is over. And obviously rules for under 18s will also be relaxed. And then in September, the government is going to take a review of the country's preparedness for autumn and winter. And as we have more ward forums and any further guidance, it'll all be published on the Birmingham City Council's website, and will come an update as service leads at future ward forums. So hopefully I wrapped everything up as quick as I could within the 10 minutes I promised I would. There was a lot of information to get through, so I'm sorry if I've spoken really quickly. I've wanted to pass on the most important information to you guys. So it's over to everyone out there if anybody's got any questions for me or anything they want me to take back.
Right. Thank you so much, Bhavna. Are there any questions or comments? I'm just looking at the chat box. No, there isn't. Leslie, are there any questions?
No, there's no questions in the chat box. Oh, hang on. There's something just gone in the chat box. From Naomi. Are the champions? Naomi, would you like to...
Sorry, I forgot to say, I've just actually missed that line. Yes, we have COVID champions in the Handsworth area, and currently we have 11 recruited COVID champions within the Handsworth area.
Can I just ask what they're doing now? How is their work changed now that the restrictions are shifting?
Yeah, so basically at the moment it's the work with the champions at the moment. I can take that back to the relevant lead for the champions to get back to you with further information, but the information I've been provided is the work that the champions are doing is continuing to make sure people are acting safely, passing on those messages to ensure people are conducting their daily sort of activity in a safe way, because although restrictions have been relaxed, we still need to be mindful of the fact that we have got COVID is still there, very much there, and it can spike anytime, and especially with mutations that can arise at any point in time. So it's getting those messages. So the champions are doing the work around ensuring that messages to stay safe, enforcing those messages around practicing good health and behaviour. That is the key work of the champions.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you. If there are no other questions, can I now thank you very much for speaking to us about this matter. So we're going to move on now to the next item, which is Handsworth. You're welcome. Handsworth Park project progress. We've got James there. James, over to you.
Good evening, everybody. My name's James O'Sullivan, and I work with Landscape Practice Group. I'm a senior landscape architect there. Been there quite a few years, actually, but I've been working on the details to renovate the upper lake and that area. So, I mean, it's obviously been going on for quite some years, and it's only recently that we managed to get the funding together to have a look at the pollution aspects of the pond. We're worried about the health and safety aspects, and with that in mind, we fenced it off in at the end of April, and we shut off the flow into the lake. There's a flow at one end, at the narrow end, into the lake, and then it overflows into the large lake underneath the railway. So we shut off the flow and diverted it underground into the large lake just temporarily, so that we could drain the upper lake by opening the gate at the far end. And with that, well, it hasn't been entirely successful, because one of the problems is that the base of the lake is actually below the outfall. I don't want to get into too much technical detail, but suffice to say that we have taken out a lot of residual sludge from the base of the lake. We're pressing Severn Trent to help us on the costs of things, because we're almost sure that the water that comes into the lake is not very clean anyway. And one of the problems is that the existing vegetation that grows around the lake, obviously we don't want to harm the big trees or anything, but some of the self-sown trees like sycamores and ash that are growing out of the wall are all dropping their leaves into the lake every year, and this builds up in the base, and you get what we call anaerobic conditions, where there's no oxygen in the water. There was an oxygenating machine that was installed about 20 years ago, but this has become very difficult to maintain and manage. So we've decided to go with a simpler system, which basically looks at putting a dam across the top end of the lake. So the water at the top end will be slightly higher than the rest of the lake, and the water will go over the dam, well, making a sort of cascade essentially. And there'll be a natural sort of reed bed at that end, which will naturally filter the water as well. The other things that we've got in mind are on the I think it's the south side bank. We're going to reprofile that. At the moment, well, previously it was quite steep and quite dangerous, especially for younger children walking down to feed the ducks or whatever. So what we've done now is to reprofile it so it's a lot more gradual slope into the water, and that's going to be dressed with sort of like a stone shingle, which will be a lot easier to walk on, a lot safer to approach the water. The other thing that we're going to do, and this is really with a mind to cleaning out the water. At the moment, there's quite a lot of floating debris that collects at the top end, at the wider end, and at the moment the rangers and the parks managers can't get in to clean out safely. So we're going to put a pontoon in at the far end, and a pontoon is essentially like a pier down at water level. So it means that safely we'll be able to open the gate, a new gate there, go through the railings, down onto the pontoon, and then they'll be able to scoop out any sort of accumulated debris before it settles on the base. The other aspects, apart from the pond, is that we're going to be putting in some adult fitness equipment. I've sent out a range of drawings over the last few months to Tonya and also to Councillor Quinnan, and I'm hoping that if anybody's interested, they could get in touch with them, and you can see a lot of fine detail. Obviously, I haven't got time to go through every fine detail, but obviously it hasn't just been me that's working on it. There's the rangers and the constituency parks manager, and you know, the friends group, and everybody's been very helpful with suggestions. So we're going to be putting in some fitness equipment, not near the lake, obviously, but up near up towards the centre there. And the other aspect is that this coming winter, we'll be planting quite a lot of shrubs and trees in various areas around the park. If anybody's got any ideas or suggestions for species, or please get in touch. Just on species and trees, there was an existing tree down the far end on the wide end of the lake near the island that was diseased, and there was a lot of concerns about it. Obviously, we didn't just knock it out without thinking about it. I went to see it with the tree officer, Mr. Jones, and also saw it with Mr. Southall, and it was felt that it really was dangerous, and a wind would have blown it over. So we took that out. But we're as part of the proposals, we'll be planting some more, quite sizable trees. So it'll soon, be replenished. Sorry, that's me rambling on as usual, but there's lots and lots of detail. The contractor at the moment is about 3/4 of the way removing the sludge from the base of the lake, and at the moment they're putting it as on a temporary lagoon down below the cricket pitch where it can safely dry out, and then there's plans to actually plant on top of it. I mean, at the moment it's like a soup, and that's why it's fenced off and warning signs and everything. But over the coming month, it'll dry out, and then we can plant it, and it'll just form a feature in the lake, in the park. I think those are the major aspects really, but if anybody's got any questions either now or in the future, if you could get in touch with either Leslie or Councillor Quinlan, I'd be very pleased to hear from you.
Right.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you, James, for that information. No doubt the progress is being made on these projects. Thank you very much for that. Please do thank your teams as well, those who are doing the work. Are there any questions for James? You may put your question on the chat box as well, or you can raise your hand. Leslie, are there any questions?
No, Councillor Quinn, I can't see any questions.
Okay, so I can ask my question.
It's probably my accent, Councillor Quinlan.
No, that's fine. I can ask my question. My question is about the outdoor gym.
Yes.
As we've just come out of COVID-19 restrictions and it's summer holidays, there may be a need to have these pieces of equipment in the park. So I was just wondering, couldn't they be installed ready for this August?
Yes, well, it's a good question actually. We did try to get them done as an early part of the works, but unfortunately, as with quite a lot of things at the moment, it's really difficult to get a reasonable delivery. We've ordered them and they're ready. I tried a few different companies. We've used this company before in various parks and locations, and they make robust, strong equipment, which is easy to maintain and manage. With that in mind, we decided with the constituency parks manager to use static equipment. So if you can imagine things like parallel bars and beams and things like that. We've located 2 different places where he wants, or he thinks it's appropriate to put the equipment, and it is ordered, but it won't be here until I think the end of August. So as soon as it arrives, obviously, I'll be taking the contractors off the lake and moving them onto, we have to make some quite specialist bases for the equipment, because you can imagine if you're standing up off the ground and you fall over, it doesn't want to be any hard or stony. So we've got a specialist material that goes in the ground, well, flush with the ground, so that it's far less dangerous, and we've used it on a lot of different situations. So yeah, sorry, rambling on, but as soon as I can get the equipment, we'll be getting it installed as soon as we can.
All right, thank you. We're looking forward to that.
Yes, of course.
Yes. Okay, thank you so much for speaking to us. Now we're going to move on to...
Naomi's asked, can she have James's email address?
Of course.
So, yeah, if you could pop it in the chat, James.
Yes, I'm not very good with Teams, but if I could send it to you, Leslie,
yeah,
or
that's fine. That's fine. As long as I'll send it out tomorrow.
Just so I know it's got to the right people.
Okie dokie. All right. Thanks.
Would you like me to hang around, or is it okay?
Yes, you may hang around. We would like. It would be good if you can see the Handsworth Ward team.
Lovely.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we can then move on to the next item, waste management. Leslie is here. Some of you will have met Leslie before when we used to meet face to face. So Leslie, over to you.
Yes, thanks, Councillor. Hi, everybody. Good evening. Hope you're all well. Thanks again to the invite to Handsworth Ward Committee. I am looking forward to the days when we can get back to face, so I can meet everybody again. By way of an update, Councillor, you sent me some questions in advance of this meeting, and I just wanted to answer a couple of them. But what if I do my submission first, my update, that will hopefully answer some of those questions. So in street scene currently, we've been given a temporary pot of money to look at the way we do some of our street cleansing activities. And what we're going to be doing with that is we're going to be looking at dumping on the highway. So we've took on some crews that will be looking at fly tipping and dumping. We're going to go to the regular spot, shall we say. And I think the one ringing at everyone's ears at the moment is Quick Lane. We're going to be taking a more proactive approach now, in as much as another part of the money that's coming for us is going to be for enforcement. So we're going to be using enforcement, and that will be in many different guises. We did on Quick Lane in a previous exercise put a camera up, which was subsequently damaged off the lamppost. But as quick as we clear it there, I'm sure you know, Council, you must get enough emails. It comes again. So we are requesting that Quick Lane gets preferential treatment, and we catch who's doing this dumping. And that will include cameras, I would suggest, in the near future. So we're looking at different areas around the ward, or wards across the city, and we're going to highlight a different area once a month. We're going to come and spend some time in that area, and that might be in the form of a deep cleaning crew that will come and dig out where there's lots of parked cars, for example, or something that's been a bit discarded, left behind, with a view of getting that cleaned up, so that then obviously the team over at Penny Bar can manage it. We're calling on sort of an all-out day, and what we'll attend on them days is we'll have an extra graffiti crew. We'll have that dumping crew that we put in place. We'll have the heavy work crew, the digging out crew, etc. And we'll have your normal working crew there as well. Again, sweepers as well. So we're going to identify an area, communicate with the local residents. So we'll do some leaflet drops. We'll invite councillors and any other groups that want to come along on the day. And we're not going to do them at 7 o'clock in the morning when everyone's trying to get a bit more sleep than what we're used to. We're going to come a bit later, so it might be like between 10 and 2. But what also comes with that in certain areas, we've got a mobile HRC site. So we're probably aware that Penny Bar 1's due to close quite soon, and we're going to be focusing on some of the areas where we're going to get more dumping potentially. So the mobile HRC site, it's in the form of 2 large vehicles. One, you can come along and recycle some of your unwanted goods like plastics, cans, paper, garden waste, and we'll take that away and get it reused properly, recycled. And we'll also have a vehicle with us that can take away some of the bulky items that we don't want, some of the bric-a-brac, or if you've got an old mattress, something like that. We can't drive around the streets, obviously, we're going to be static. But if you want to and you're willing to, you can bring the stuff to us and we'll take it away, obviously free of charge. So the plan is to come along with all these different people, different types of vehicles and workforce to target an area. Quick Lane will be one. We've identified a couple of others, working with the local managers at the depot. Justin's given me a couple of key spaces. Quick Lane's one of them. But you know, we're more than welcome, Councillor, if you feel somewhere we need to do this kind of exercise, we can get it scheduled. And obviously we'll communicate with everybody in that area to come out, have a litter pick with us if you want to. All this is going to be arranged as a community event. We're looking to get the fire brigade down there, hopefully the police as well, waste enforcement. So it's going to be a big day out, only in small areas, in the small, really bad pockets that we've got, to tackle some of the antisocial behaviour, i.e. fly tipping, littering. Part of the other monies that we've got coming in is to look at some of our places where we're getting lots of black bags presented, and that could be Birchfield Road, it could be Soho Road, where there's lots of blacks above the shops. We are looking to deal with that, but as a stopgap while we get to that part, we're having some regular crews that drive around and it will tackle these hot spots for black sacks. And I'll use Soho Road as an example. we will probably go up there about 3 times a week and clear everything in sight. Probably around Villa Road, and some of them roads will do the same. So we're going to get on top of it, and then we're going to use waste enforcement to tackle the shops who may not have a proper licence for their waste, and to deal with the residents that live above, to put something in place for them to maybe have wheel bins or another way of disposing of their waste. But it might be that in some areas we just have to continue this collection service. I'm sure we all understand that if you've got a family living in a flat, and it's a family of 4, they don't have anywhere to store the waste. And if we can't give them a bin, we want to put something in place so they have a regular collection. And it may be that's more than once a week to stop the waste being on the streets. But it's all in the plan that what we're doing to minimise as much as possible. When I talked about waste enforcement, that is part of city operations now we work for, and they're expanding. They're bringing in a number of new officers, and some of these guys and girls are going to be working with us. So if we find a dumping spot or a fly tip spot, we're looking to go out. I think we've gone past the education side of it. We're going into enforce. So if we find we've got a place that's regularly dumped on, we're going to come out, and if we can catch them, we're going to enforce it. We're going to prosecute it every time. So we're taking a bit more of an hardline approach. Fly tipping is a problem across Birmingham, and it is going up every week, but the rest of the country is the same. We're not in isolation. It seems to be a problem across the country, but in Birmingham, we're trying to be proactive to action it and deal with it. That's my update. Hopefully that's covered some of your questions in what you sent me, Councillor. There was a couple of others, and let me just find your email. It's here somewhere. Oh, there we go. The cleaning the alleyways, I will take that back to Justin. I have emailed him. I did ask Justin to attend tonight, because there is a regime or a rotation of cleaning alleyways. I won't be able to it, but I think it's about once a month. So I'll get that confirmed by Justin, and I'll respond to your email accordingly. I did also pick up that some of our roads, like Albert Road, Brunswick, etc., are constantly parked up, and we can't get in to clean it. So we do send a large mechanical and a small mechanical. It's a little effect, I think we get. So we're going to be looking at, once we've got on top of the fly tipping, the dumping, once we've got on top of the sacks, etc., that will leave us then our ward crews to be able to get in and give it a proper sweep, spend a lot more time in the ward, in the roads that need it, and to probably increase some of the frequencies. So over time, we will see an improvement. We are looking also at some other options as well, some more mechanical options. I don't want to tell you what it is just now, because it gets expected if I tell people, but we're looking at more handheld mechanical stuff that can get between the cars and things like that, where we can't get in with a broom or any type of sweeper. I'm just checking if I've missed any more of your questions, sorry. I'll look at the second-hand clothes shop on Murdoch and Linwood. If they've moved and they've got a closed bank outside, or people are leaving clothes, we'll contact the charity and ask them to put some notices in the windows if they've moved, or if they're no longer taking any charity donations, to try and stop that. But meanwhile, we will pick up what's been put out there. I think I've covered it all there, Councillor. I'm happy to take any questions if anybody's got any.
Yeah.
Thank you.
With a question, Councillor.
Yeah, I've got a quick question. On Salborn Road, for the last 2 weeks, we had a couple of missed bin collections. It's probably been more than two weeks. Why is that the case? And when we've reported
sorry, could you repeat what road is that?
Salborn Road.
No, Salborn Road is not in Handsworth Ward.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
So I'm sorry about that.
No problem.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Naomi, I can see your hand, and then Ryan.
I've also put it in the chat. I'm very aware that Soho Road has the BID and a lot of cleaning more than other roads do. So can Grove Lane and Rookery Road also be added to this sort of very proactive rota that you're referring to for the big main roads in the area?
Yes, Naomi.
Yes.
Obviously, we won't just tackle main roads. It might be a bit of an housing estate, which there's a bit of antisocial behaviour with people littering or throwing waste out. We're going to go in, we want to try and encourage people to recycle. And that's our mobile HRWC, which is housing, refuse and waste collection. If we can get more people to recycle, less waste comes out, if you understand what I'm saying. So we will do that, but I will pick up Rookery Road, and it's in the chat. I'll pick it up the other road, Naomi, and we will be doing some exercises. And if you live down there, you can expect a leaflet through your door to come and have a walk around with us and have a look, see what we're doing.
Thank you very much.
Okay, is it Ryan? Is gone.
I think Ryan was the question around Sanborn Road, was it?
Oh, right. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
but just to
fine.
answer that, in case any local residents around Handsworth have had some issues with collections, like everybody else across the country, in recent weeks we've had a real issue with people being off with COVID. The pinging, I think they call it now, where they told to stop at home and isolate and not knowing, it has affected us. But at the moment, this week, we're definitely back on track. So any collections we have missed, we do apologise. It's been slightly out of our control, but we have took steps to get people in there to make sure that we get the regular collections and keep them.
Right. Okay, Leslie, I've got a question coming back to these alleyways again.
Yeah.
As I was saying, these alleyways, say coming from Albert, if you come from Douglas Road, Albert Road, all the way, they are public right of way, and if they were to be cleaned once only a month, that's not enough.
Okay.
As you could see the rubbish, fly tippers, sometimes they find it place for them to dump their rubbish and litter as well. So I was wondering, what could we do? Could they be scheduled the same way as street cleaning, which we get?
Yeah, let me take it back to Justin, councillor. If we can keep it clean, and it might mean that we need to come more often because they are very well used alleyways. Lots of people use that walking to school and up to the shops, etc. So it will generate more litter naturally, and also from memory, because I used to work around there, they are also a wind trap, and the wind blows down them, and it congregates around in Douglas Road and that. So let me speak to Justin about increasing the cleansing schedules. And if we are getting amounts of fly tipping, I can't give you a time frame, but let's see if we can do something with waste enforcement and potentially the cameras we've got coming to try and catch who's doing it. But I'll look to increase the cleaning schedules as a starter.
Yeah, thank you for that. And could you say something about the private land, when there's dumping on private land?
Yeah, I mean, part of this, these exercises, what we're doing, obviously we will tackle all land that belongs to the council, but we're not going to be in a position where we can leave some private land looking a bit of a blot on the landscape. So we are tackling them as well. So again, using waste enforcement, we will hunt down who the landowner is and politely ask them to clean it up. I've looked at one or two issues in other areas of the city where we've actually blocked them off, some of this private land, because they just create dumping, etc. And it might be that's one of our avenues moving forward. And obviously the landowner then will charge him accordingly for doing that. So if you have any specific places you want looking at, you forward that to me. I'll pick that up and I'll look to deal with them, councillor.
Yeah, if you look on Grove Lane, Leslie, on Grove Lane, or behind the bank, Lloyd's Bank, there's a piece of land, and also by the bus stop, there's another piece of land that is overgrown up to the footway. Those are the areas that are really concerning. They are private. So, and in that case, who could take a lead to ensure that those places are cleared and boarded up to prevent further fly tipping?
Yeah, what I would be speaking to is our waste enforcement people. So they have all the links to the landowners, and they can serve the notices and say, you know, you've got 7 days to clear it up, basically, and if you don't, we charge them, or we clear it, we charge, etc. What I want to do ideally in the longer run is get the landowners to be part of what we're doing, so everyone takes their bit of land. You know, much as we're going to bring housing in, if it's a piece of housing land that needs to be maintained, with our exercises, we're going to invite housing down. So everybody's in it for the right reason. But if someone doesn't want to be in it, then we'll take the appropriate action with them.
Okay, thank you. I can see a hand from Benny. Benny, would you like to put your question, please?
Okay. Hi, Leslie. I hope you can all hear me. What it is, I just wanted to find out, you talk about the alleyway. We've also got overgrown trees by a number of house owners that really and truly is so dangerous that you could be walking through the alley and the branches are there to kind of hit you in your eye. What kind of measures can you take in regards to that?
I think what we probably need to do, Bernie, is it is Bernie, isn't it?
Yes,
it is.
Yeah, so yeah, I think what we need to do, Bernie, is that we need to tackle, again, it's waste enforcement. So if a tree's growing on your land, you are responsible for it. So we can do a door knock and say you need to raise the canopy of them trees. And if they're dangerous, as in they're dead at the top or wherever, we can advise them they need to take them trees down or adjust them. So again, I think what would be really good would be, councillor, if some of the alleyways, some of the main areas that we discuss are focused around that part of Grove Road and Douglas and Albert Road. I don't know whether it'd be worth us going out and, while the weather's nice, when it's not raining, have a walkabout and identify these problems and put a game plan into place. Now, I welcome any residents that want to come along, and we can do it on a Saturday if that suits, if people work. Just so we all know exactly what we're doing, we can advise properly. Much like, you know, it's a face-to-face meeting, and then take them proactive steps to get the things sorted that we want to look at. So if you want to do that, councillor, I don't know if Leslie could arrange it, but you know, we're quite happy on any Saturday morning that, you know, if we choose 10 o'clock one week, we'll come along and we'll have a shuffle around the area together. And again, any residents that want to come as well.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Right, we will do that. We'll organize that, Leslie.
Okay.
Now I can't see any other ends. No, I think we've covered this. Can I thank you, Leslie, so much for your help. Yes, it is getting better. So we look forward to continue working with you in that. Thank you.
Okay, Kester. Thanks for the invite and good night to all, and be safe.
Welcome. Next is neighborhood. We're going to take neighborhood police team, and we've got Sergeant Southern is here to speak to you, to all of us. But before I bring you in, Sergeant, could I formally welcome you and your team to our Handsworth ward? Please do let us know when you are planning to hold events, community events. We could do them jointly. So over to you, Sergeant Southern.
Hi, good evening. Thank you very much. So I think I said just before the meeting started, I took over from Sean Stanley back in March, but then I've had a period of absence as well on paternity leave. So really only just sort of starting to get to grips with the ward. I also cover Lazelle's as well, so a busy little patch. I'll just go over some of sort of the crime data comparing sort of this month to the same month last year. So total crimes for the ward last year for this month were 163, and this year is 196. That appears to be driven largely by a number of assaults. I haven't looked into the detail of those. However, I know obviously we've just had the Euros and major football events sadly tend to drive an increase in domestic violence alongside it. So that's possibly part of the reason for the increase this month compared with last year, as well as probably coming out of lockdown as well this month. We have been having a number of events in the Handsworth Park area. So apologies, councillor, for not being in touch with you. They're often sort of last minute thrown together affairs, but we've been doing that with a number of our partners across West Midlands Police. So we've had dog handlers involved, drones involved, and we've been working with the ubiquitous Cash the Flash for those events. A large part of those is trying to drive recruitment into West Midlands Police from underrepresented groups. So there's a big push over the summer to try and increase applications from Black and Asian candidates. Unfortunately, we don't necessarily see the number of applications from those groups, which means that the number of people who are actually getting through to become police officers is reduced. So we're really trying to drive up those applications and make people see that as a career. So there'll be a number of events. I'll email you directly, councillor, with dates for those. I don't have them to hand, unfortunately. To really focus on recruitment and increasing our representation in our communities. I know last month there was the Black and Asian Police Association focus as well, which included Handsworth Park as part of its day of action. We've got, there's been a few developments in terms of the Soho Road. So we've had Section 35 dispersal put in place earlier this month, which allowed us to disperse people from the area for up to 48 hours, causing antisocial behaviour like begging, street drinking, and prostitution. So we're working closely with the BID and also with the NISHCAM as well, who have a very proactive security team. So we've been working closely with them. That was quite successful. We managed to disperse quite a number of people, and the vast majority of whom haven't returned, including some of the prostitutes that were causing a particular problem. Having been warned off, they haven't returned to the area. Following on from that, we have a day of action tomorrow with some of our partners along the Soho Road. So there'll be my team, a team from Change Grow Live, who provide substance abuse referrals, so whether that's drugs or alcohol, because I think the big part is it's all well and good taking a policing approach, but we can't necessarily arrest our way out of some of these problems. And with the increase in HMOs and exempt accommodation in our area, some of whom probably aren't getting the right support they need, trying to speak to them on the streets and start directing them into those support is important. So we've got that. Hopefully Robert Hedges from the Council Environmental Health will come up. I know Leslie talked at length about the fly tipping. So that's a problem we're also tackling. Someone mentioned the private land issues. I've got Belgrave Terrace, which is a massive driver of antisocial behaviour, and frankly, I think the site's hazardous to health at the moment. So we're working closely with Robert about identifying how we can tackle that and address that. The issue is it's unadopted at the moment, so it's a little bit difficult to try and address that. But we're working through that. And I know Adam Harper from the fire service has been working a lot about the alleyways in particular. So I don't know if that's repeating some of what Leslie said and some of the same resources, but I know Adam Harper from the fire services secured some resources to try and tackle fly tipping in the alleyways in particular. I know from the meeting I had with Naomi a few weeks ago, certainly there's been at least one fire caused partly by fly tipping in the alleyways. So we're looking at that as well, but obviously not solely from a policing perspective. On HMOs, we've been taking part in a big piece of work around exempt accommodation. We worked with the fire service to close down an illegal multi-occupancy premises, 11A Linwood, which was being illegally rented out to a number of tenants. So along with the fire service, we've managed to get that closed down. And I think we've got representatives from the council going with us tomorrow to the same address to execute a warrant under council powers on that address. So hopefully there should be some more actions on HMOs and exempt accommodation, because I know that causes a big issue, and frankly it's laziness or greediness upon some of these landlords who aren't providing the support to the vulnerable people that they should be, and that's driving demand not just for us but for all the other services as well. So we are looking at that. In terms of getting in touch with the team and I, as with everything, go online in the first instance. Your answers might be there. We also have a web chat function where we can take details for minor crimes as well, or there's the 101 number. Obviously, in an emergency, ring 999 if it's a life or death emergency. You can reach the team. I'll tap it in the chat box. Leslie, I assume that will be going onto YouTube as well. Is that right?
The chat box can't be viewed on YouTube, but what we do is we send all the information in the chat box out to the residents, so they will, who are on the meeting, they'll get all the information.
Okay, I'll put the team email address in the chat box then. It's important to note that that's, if you want to provide us with some information, you can email it through that way, but not to report crimes to us. It's important that goes through either the online, the 101 or the 999, because that generates a log for us, which means we can track where demand is. If you just email us, first of all, we're not on 24 hours a day, my team. We work 6 on, 3 off. So it's important to use 999. Excuse me, I've got a sorry about that. Bear with me. Sorry about that. That's where we are with Handsworth. We're doing a lot of community events, or have been in the Handsworth Park area, and there'll be more to come over the summer. The dispersal powers we've got are keeping an open mind about whether we need to use that for Handsworth Park with the school holidays and antisocial behaviour. So far, I've not seen an increase reported to us of antisocial behaviour around the park, thankfully. If there's any questions or any points I've missed that you'd like me to address.
Yes, I can ask. Are there any questions? No, not on the chat box. No questions on the chat box, Leslie?
No, there's no questions in the chat.
No, there's nothing. Right. Well, thank you, Sergeant Phil. And could I also congratulate you for being a dad and having the member of the family. And we're looking forward to working with you. We have got some residents associations. I wanted to ask whether it would be possible for you to attend those meetings if you are invited.
Yeah, absolutely. I've attended the one for Antipas Road. and spoken to Naomi. As she knows, unfortunately, Antrobus Road is the boundary between myself and the Handsworth Wood team. So I cover all the odd numbers on one side, and my counterpart Jason covers all the even numbers. But I've attended that, and Mary's one for the sort of Philip Victor Hinstock Road triangle, which was very productive. I know where the Philip Victor and Hinstock Road, we're developing a street watch for that. I know Naomi was looking at one, so that's still in the works, but in progress.
Okay.
And then we've got some other ones that have come up for sort of Hampstead Road as well, for street watch wise. So we're doing that. We are working closely with the bid as well, and as I said earlier, like the Nishcam. So yeah, but any meetings, more than happy to come along and listen and give our points of view and what information we have.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for coming and speaking to us. So you can stay if you wish. Okay. So we move on to the next item now, which is any other business. Is there any other business? Okay. Let's see. Check that. So if there is no other business, finally, the future meeting topics. What items would you like us to have in our next meetings? Are there any suggestions? You may also post them on the chat box. Leslie will be able to pick them up from there. Okay, Naomi.
I think I have sent a list through prior to this meeting. Very concerned about what's happening, to find out what's happening with the former Farcroft pub, find out what's happening with that. Something about the exempt accommodation pilot, the planning decisions which have been made on Grove Lane and others in relation to HMOs. I think that's gone through by email.
Yes, I have picked up the email and I said we're going to look at the issues. But the pub is unfortunately not in our Handsworth ward. It's in Holyhead ward. And my colleague is dealing with the issues there. So if you wanted updates, you can always get in touch with her.
It's just that it so affects Handsworth ward as well. It would seem helpful to have something for us as well because it's the same road, isn't it?
Yeah, it is the border. But what I could do is when I receive some updates, I could forward them to you. Will that be helpful?
I think it would be useful to forward them to everybody in the ward, on the ward list.
On the contact list with Leslie. Yeah.
Councillor Quinnan, Phil has his hand up. Maybe he has some info on that.
Okay. Phil.
Hi, thank you, Councillor. Hi, Naomi. I know the Farcroft ended up being used as sort of an unofficial mosque without planning permission. I think the landlords were quite quick to shut that down. I don't know if you want to drop me an email if you're having any more issues, and I can look into that from our side. As far as I'm aware, it should be empty and vacated. But I think you've got my email, so if you want to drop me an email, I can look into it from a policing point of view.
Okay, thanks for that, Phil. Okay, so well, the next, let me see what's coming up next. What's coming up next? Yeah, I think we've got to the end. Future meeting topics. Yeah, we've got that. Okay, so thank you all for your contributions, and this brings us to the end of our meeting. Have a good night and happy holidays to those who are going on holiday.
Councillor Naomi's got a final question, I think.
Naomi.
Could I ask about the notification for the meetings and the timescale? This last meeting that we have now has relatively few attendees, and I think the notice period was quite short. Can we do something about getting more notice for meetings so that we can have more attendance?
Yeah, Leslie, would you like to say something about that, about the meetings?
The next meeting we've already agreed is the 19th of October. I think, haven't we, councillor, for your ward, 19th of October, 7 o'clock?
Yes, but we did apologize, Naomi, for this meeting because of the other meetings within the council. So we had this date and we had to move it earlier and then bring it back, and we did apologize for that. So we will send out the invite 7 days in advance. Okay. Is that all right?
I think 7 days is too short. I think we need at least 2 weeks. Especially if you know the date so far ahead.
Yeah, Leslie, what's the requirement? The kind of
our cut-off date is 7 days. 5 working days. But we've got a date set which is really far ahead. So it's just, you know, sorting the agenda out and getting officers. So if we can get the agenda agreed at the beginning of October, then I don't see any reason why we can't send it out 2 weeks before.
Okay, all right. Thank you for raising that, Naomi. So,
Councillor Quinlan James has got his hand up. Is that intentional hand, James?
It is, yes. Yeah, sorry to bother you. I was just really saying, if you want me to attend the meeting next time, I will do. But in the meantime, as we get near to any milestones, especially with regard to say like the fitness equipment, I can get in touch with you and let you know. And if you can cascade it to all interested parties, that would be very useful.
Yes. Thank you for that. And Naomi, your hand is up. Is it the all?
No, that's historic, sorry.
Okay, historic, okay. All right, so we can bring the meeting to a close then. Thank you so much again for attending.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Cheers.
Good night.